My honor now is to introduce the commencement speaker, Lawrence Carroll, which we actually met in Bologna in one of the field trips. He had a solo show in the Mambo Museum. We met him and we talked with him and we loved his work and had a very pleasant talk. And so we really, with great pleasure, welcome him to talk about the students and the idea of being an artist.
I remember the first time that I arrived in New York, driving through the Lincoln Tunnel from California. And my heart was pounding as I was entering this new world and this new step in my life. And I must say that my heart's racing a little bit at this moment. It's good to be alive. I've been thinking about this talk for some time, thinking about what I could say. Did I have anything to say, and if any words of wisdom that I could leave with the young graduates? What I realized was that I had my story to tell. I could not become someone else. I have my story, you have yours, and that's what we have to trust. When I left college, I returned to the town in which I was raised, the town I've been trying to escape. My youngest daughter was just born, and the second was soon to arrive. Most of my friends from college were not married. Well, to think of it, none of them were. Many moved east to New York City, which to me at that time was like going to the moon. I'm often slow at things, a late bloomer, some might say. So there I was working at an apartment manager to make ends meet. Sitting in my storage room one day where I cleared off a wall and placed 4 small drawings on it that I had cut out from my sketchbook that served as my studio for quite a long time. I sat back down and stared at those drawings and said, "Here I go." It was a private declaration to myself that I was an artist. It was not important that others knew at that time. It was important that I knew that I was entering that journey in my life. Now, I had no idea where I was going, how I would get there, or when, or even if it was possible. But I knew that day that I was an artist, and that's what I was going to do. I had no map. I had no plan laid out. Failure, jealousy, and rejection were waiting. And there I was about to embark on my journey. One evening, 4 years later, I'm sitting on the rooftop of my studio in downtown Los Angeles that I shared with my friend. He had already been to New York City after college. He had gone to the moon. I kept asking him as I was sitting on the rooftop, "Does New York look like this? Does it feel like this?" He looked at me and he simply said, "Why don't you just go find out?" In other words, shut up and do something. It was like as if the light went off. So I started to ask myself what was stopping me. There was nothing but I and my fears and doubts and anxieties about the unknown. So some months later, in June of 1984, 4 years after college with $2,000 and no awaiting job, and 2 kids, the family headed east. We landed in New Jersey. Not quite the moon, but 6 miles from New York City, in a second-floor apartment of a house that had been divided into rentals. Upstairs was an attic. That, to me, was a godsend. It had no heating, and my water would freeze in the winter, and in the summer, it was a sauna, but to me, it was paradise, and it was mine. It became my refuge, my studio, and my everything. I painted up there. I opened letters of rejection. I dreamed up there. My children would sit with me and keep me company. My oldest, late at night, when she should be sleeping, would tiptoe up the stairs and spend time with Dad. It was a marvelous time. It was a time where I did not much, but in many ways, I had everything. a time of a young man chasing his elusive dream to be a painter. I did not know anyone in the art world. I had a few friends out east, but not in the art world. I had no community. I remember standing at the edge of Grant Avenue in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, and looking across the Hudson River in the New York City skyline and asking myself, how does anyone get seen or heard in that place? It just seemed so daunting and out of reach for me. I was in survival mode, doing any job that came along and illustrating in the day and painting at night. I was painting as much as I could. When I would drop my illustration portfolio off during the day in New York, I would have about 4 to 5 hours before I needed to collect it, return home, and get my girls. I roamed and walked the city. I went to museums and galleries and lectures and absorbed all I could. And when I got home, I would paint and try to figure out who I was in all of this. My head would spin with confusion after all I had seen and heard. It was just not easy. It did not come easy or fast. But I was there, and I was doing it, and that's where I needed to be. And I trusted in time that I would start to latch on to something that was mine. I simply just had to keep at it the best that I could. There were low points for sure. At one time, I was teaching 2 classes at Pratt out in Brooklyn. We were barely getting by. One of my classes was canceled, and I just could not tell my wife about this. It was a low moment, and I kept asking myself, how long can I do this? How long can I keep at this? So I'd wake up on a Friday as if I was going to teach, and I'd walk up to the bus stop and slip into the diner and wait until my wife went to work. Then I'd slip back home, not feeling so good, and paint. I remember going to Soho in New York City, and there was an opening of Robert Rauschenberg at the Leo Castelli Gallery on West Broadway. You could well imagine the crowds there, people taking pictures and swarming around. It was a madhouse. At the end of the evening, it was just a few of us and Rauschenberg talking. I was shy and did not say much. One person asked him how you become an artist or something like that. He told a few stories of living on Front Street and buying day-old bread and how hard those times were. But then he said you had to love what you do, and that was it. No magic formula, no set of rules, simply you have to love what you do. I was disappointed, as I, like all the rest, were looking for that magic answer to carry us to that place we all wanted to be. Not a free ride, but perhaps a shortcut. 8 years after I had left college, 8 years, I had started to show. I was 33 years old, and it just started. Someone approached me and asked me the same thing, and what I said was no different from what I was told. You simply have to love what you do, and you do. I'm so happy to see you all here, and thank you so very, very much for inviting me. I'm truly touched and honored to speak to you here today. This is the last place I could have ever dreamed of being invited, and that to me is one of the beauties of life, the unexpected gifts that come one's way. So thank you very much for this privilege. You are about to embark on the journey of your lifetime. Some of you leave in the morning. You're taking along, packed in your suitcase, your history, your family history, your story so far, old friends and lovers, some lost, some still swirling in your lives, your successes and failures, and all those voices humming around in your head from that walk you have already completed at this point in your lives. I know it could all can be so dizzying. I know this well, as sometimes my head still spins, and I need to at times hit the road alone to empty out and to allow some room for something else to come in. This is what I do. I take a road trip, I get off the main roads of America and drift. I spend a couple weeks roaming around, asking the advice of strangers in small towns and coffee shops where I should go, what I should see around here. I love this time, and I need this time. It may seem like a waste of time to some, but for me, it enriches me and provides me with the solitude I need away from the noise of my life and my studio. The studio, to me, does not hold all the answers. I really need to empty out and make room for other things to enter. Then I can return to the studio and start at it again and hope to connect to something that I collected out there along the road, trusting that something will come out of it all. How have you prepared for the road ahead of you? What is down your road? Are there hills to climb? And what happens when you realize you're on the wrong road? Can you turn back and change course? Who are you letting down? Who are you taking along with you? What sacrifices do you have to still continue to make? This path, whatever you wish to call it, is your life ahead of you. But how beautiful is that thought ahead of you, not behind you, but an open field, an open road full of possibilities and hopes and dreams and stories yet to know and to share. And what I can offer you today is this, and it's quite simple, but profoundly true. I can offer you you. You will walk the road ahead. You will make the choices that shape your journey. You will fail, you will triumph, and you'll fail again, and you'll get back up and go at it again. You will learn the lessons and the gifts that failure can teach you. We all fail, and we all stumble. There is no one that I know that has not. And if you think that someone has not, then you do not know this person very well. Don't limit yourself. If your instincts are telling you to turn right, then turn right. As foolish or as uncomfortable as you may feel, allow yourself to follow that urge. You do not need always to have the answers in front of you. They will come in time. Change is uncomfortable. It's as simple as that. It also can be so liberating. A little story. I was separated from my family, going through a pretty hard time. I moved from a fancy loft in Tribeca in New York City into what I called the cave, a windowless studio. I was all alone and felt disconnected and empty in many ways. I decided one day to paint the floor of my dingy studio. I took out a can of paint, the color that I had used for my paintings, poured it in the tray, and started to roll the paint out on the floor, starting in the corner. After painting a very small area, I stopped. The years of dust that had settled in the cracks made painting impossible. Some days later, after coming home, I entered the space and stared at this painted area on the floor. It was the color that I had used in my paintings, and in some small way, this painted, dusty corner made me feel at home. It was something comforting and familiar. I had this urge to place something there. I looked around and picked up from the floor some stray bits of canvas, and I rested them in the corner of this painted area. Some days later, I was returning home, and I looked over at these scraps of canvas. They looked to me as if a snake had shed its skin, and I immediately thought how liberating it would be for me if I could shed my skin, so to speak, that I also could in some way become someone else. It was empowering to realize that by making the paintings that I was fighting against, that I was in some small way becoming someone else, and how freeing that felt to me. You need to prepare for this as you change. You need to know it's a huge part of one's growth and personal success. You need to know that you will grow little without trying. You also need to know how to survive it, how to put it in compartments and not let it bleed into every corner of your life. You need to know the importance of community and learn to understand your nature. This is vital, understanding your nature, your way of walking in this world we live and share. You do not need to abandon yourself to become someone else. You will learn that by trusting your nature will lead you to becoming someone else, but the self that you wish to be. Protect this. Know what you need and know what you do not need. Build a life that is not one-dimensional. Build a full life. This will enhance and enrich every corner of your life. Know that you cannot do this all alone. It's just too hard. Know that we need community and choose this wisely. Find those that support you, not those that tear you down. Create roots in your life, something sturdy and faithful, something that will be there when you need to learn to rest and to wait. Be grateful, be giving to others, and learn to look around and listen and care. This will also enrich your life. I believe it's a moral obligation that in some way we find a way of giving something back. That, to me, is my time. The most precious gift of all, I believe, is one's time. We all carry something special inside us that we can give and share and pass along to others in the hopes that they also keep this gift moving. I'd often remind my students and friends how fortunate we are that we can enter our studios and that place that is ours and have the time to create something that we need to create, and often what a gift that can be. Every time I encounter something wonderful in this world, a painting, a poem, a song, a film, a story, a kind words of strangers, I remind myself that this was once simply an idea floating around in someone's head. They just had the smarts to jot it down, and they had the guts to make it. They believed in the possibility of these ideas, and they simply created something out of it. Do not discount your ideas. Write them down, keep them close and protect them, and grow them and wrestle with them, but don't abandon them. I remember clearly being in my studio many years ago, looking at my paintings and knowing at that moment they were the best that I could make. But I knew deeply that they had to become much better. That was humbling to realize that all I had to do was just go back to work, to fail some more, to struggle some more, and that would allow more doors to open creatively, and in time, I would get better. I realized that by knowing what I had been through to get through these tough times, I could apply further down the road when I would again be at a crossroad like that. I also believe in checking in, and what I mean is this. Ask yourself what you're trying to do, what you're trying to get at. Write those things down and keep them nearby. And after a while, let's say 6 months, check in to see where you're at, how far you've come with that list, and be honest with yourself. Often you will find that you have not done all that you could. Don't let this discourage you. As you know, there is more you can do. This should give you the power, not someone else. And if you have done all that you could, look at what you can do then differently and simply go back at it. But that's the hard part, the discipline and the drive to keep going against the tide. We get tired. I got tired. We get discouraged. I got discouraged. And this is normal for most of us. But it's also where community falls into the picture. And this is where a well-rounded life can fall into the picture. And this is where giving can fall into the picture. And for a moment, take yourself out of your picture, out of your life, and put yourself in someone else's picture, someone else's shoes. Take a break from you and help others out. There are so many things that can feed you and give you the fuel that you need to follow your path. What I love about reading biographies of an artist is that you know pretty well how it ends up. You root for them. You know things will get better. I start talking to them, de Kooning, Don't worry, Matisse, things are going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Pablo, relax. It's all going to be just fine. Don't you wish that you had that? A biographer rooting for you, telling your story, showing you the way, telling you not to worry, that everything will be okay. Life is rich with beauty and sadness and love and deeply moving experiences that await us. They're in us and they're around us. But you need to jump into your life and find them in your own way. You need to trust them and give them shape and give them purpose. When you are deeply connected to what you're creating, you will find that this is the fuel you need to have. This is the fuel that will get you through the difficult times, and this is the fuel that will make it worthwhile. This is what Robert Rauschenberg meant when he said, "You have to love what you do." How often have you been reading something or listening to something and you start to nod your head? You feel connected in some way. You also feel not so alone and that you have company around you, like a warm wool blanket to keep away the winter cold. So, my friends, find out what your stories are, your blankets, and your own fuel. Talk about your heroes and gods and mentors and tip your hat their way. Give credit to others. Teach those around you that we need others and that nothing can come from a vacuum. Demystify the journey with truthfulness, not bravado. Humanize the road for others. Color it with your story, the full story, the true story, the unedited one. We are all living a rich life. Look at where we are. Look at what a gift you have been given to spend your time here creating and dreaming and growing and learning. Remember how you felt when you first stepped foot into this place for the first time and how you are now. Take these lessons and apply them for the next step you are about to take. Even with many of the problems we carry, don't bury them. Keep them and use them in a good way to learn, to create, to love, to share with others, and to move on. May I ask you, young artists, to please stand up. Take a look around. Look at where you are. Reflect on how far you have come. Remember this mark along your road. Look into the eyes of those around you and salute them as we salute you. As I, who have walked some along my road, I salute you all. I wish the world and more for you. I admire what it takes each of you to reach this moment in your awaiting path. As loud as I can and as deeply as I can, I am rooting for each and every one of you, for your dreams, for your hopes, and for all that lie ahead. Don't blame your world, change your world. Don't blame your world, change your world. And don't let anyone tell you who you are. There is no way someone could measure what's inside your heart, and they should never count you out, and you should never count you out. Good luck, and thank you very much.
Lawrence, thank you.